1 year ago, Blink-182, the biggest pop-punk band in the world, released their album One More Time. It was their first album with Tom DeLonge since 2011. Now it's 1 year later. Are you still listening to it? Is anybody even talking about this album? That's what this video is going to be about. So let's look back at Blink-182's One More Time, 1 year later. First off, I had a lot of fun going back this week and listening to the album. It's been a long time, probably since the album came out, that I made some time and sat down and actually listened to the entire album in full, and I had a lot of fun. The album opens up with the anthem part 3, and that was so smart by Blink to do because you had all this nostalgia for Tom coming back to the band, for everybody who grew up listening to Blink-182, obviously, and then you even turn up the nostalgia more by completing the trilogy and having Anthem Part 3. It was just such a smart marketing and business move, and not to mention, the song is great. I love how the song starts. It's just 100% Blink-182 is the only way that I can describe it, and it also was very smart to turn up the nostalgia once more by having Tom be the first voice that we hear on the entire album. Mark also really shines on this song, especially with the lyrics, and after you had the time of your life, flatlined and led toward the light, you'll despair the wreckage and find no one gave a F that you died. Of course, those lyrics are about Mark's battle with cancer, and it lets the listener know, too, that this version, or this album from Blink-182, isn't going to be just the fun, joke-filled Blink-182. It's also going to be a very serious album. A lot of times when a band changes their sound, they always use the word, we're going to mature, and when they're talking about, in interviews and stuff, especially in the pop-punk scene. And I feel like too many bands think maturing means that you have to completely change your sound. Well, a lot of fans then take that as hey, we fell in love with you because of your first album, or your first EP, or the first songs that you ever released. That's why we were fans of you. We liked that sound. So then when a band changes that sound, the fans are like, hey, you're kind of leaving us behind because we fell in love with your old stuff. So if you drastically change your sound, you better be good. And the whole thing about maturing, especially in pop punk, I feel like bands, especially in the scene, are too mature. We have to not sound pop punk. But I've talked about it on the channel before. We have a lot of great examples of pop punk bands maturing and still sounding like they're playing pop punk or punk rock or aggressive alternative rock, to just really, make it kind of a broad term. I always talk about the Wonder Years, The Hum Goes On Forever. That's a pop punk album, but it isn't about your crush, or it isn't about high school and hating your town and liking pizza and parties and all of this stuff. It's a really mature pop punk album, and Blink-182 has been the standard for the mature pop punk sound for years. I mean, just look at the self-titled album, or even Neighborhoods, which I think is very underrated. Those are pop punk albums, or rock albums, or alternative rock albums, whatever you want to call them, but they're more mature than some of Blink's earlier stuff. One More Time isn't all serious. I mean, on track 2, Dance With Me, it immediately begins with that Blink-182 humor that they've been so famous for, that they're so recognizable for. And the song is one of the songs that I didn't really get into the first time when this album came out, but after listening to it for the past, few days, it's really a song that, it's literally the song that I'm thinking about right now in my head. My brain is singing along to it because I'm talking about a Blink and One More Time. It's the song that has stayed in my head the most listening to it 1 year later. Fell in Love was a song I really wanted to fall in love with, but I feel like the chorus is where it just doesn't have that payoff. The song builds and builds, and that chorus just kind of stays like this the entire time. It's not, you expect the chorus to be this big pop punk moment, but it just kind of stays neutral the entire time, if that makes any sense. So the song is okay, but I really wanted something more from it. Now, Terrified is a song that we know was originally a Boxcar Racer song, and you can hear that anytime that you listen to the song, and it surprises me that Blink didn't really kind of use that sound again on this album, or more importantly, I don't understand why Blink didn't do this sound somewhere on 9, which is a more darker, just sounding Blink album. Not to mention you have the goth punk legend Matt Skiba, and if you wanted to do a darker version of Blink-182 like Terrified is, I think Matt Skiba's voice would have been perfect on it. Now, this might be a hot take. I think One More Time, the title track, the song One More Time, is kind of a big misstep here, because the song is emotional, the music video is great, the background being Warped Tour and different images from like Blink-182's different eras or like music videos, stuff like that. I think that was really cool, but I really think that One More Time, the version that Alex Melton did, was superior. And I know that's weird to say, but his version, if you've never heard it, goes through like the actual instrumentals are different versions of different eras, I should say, of Blink-182 throughout their career. And I think that was like, just that entire concept is really cool, and it would have worked so well on the actual song One More Time. So I don't think Blink would ever do this, but I'd love to see Blink-182 use that general idea and then kind of do a remix of the song One More Time, because I think the Alex Melton version is so interesting. It's such just a cool idea that it's crazy that Blink-182, like, no one thought about in their camp to do like a different version of One More Time. More Than You Know is probably the fastest and most punky song on the album, one of my favorites. And then we get to the short Blink-182 songs that are like 30 seconds or 40 seconds, and I'm done with them. I'm still mad that after California, where it was Built This Pool and Bohemian Rhapsody, and everybody liked those songs, or at least liked the instrumentals, because those songs they sounded the most pop-punk Blink-182, like, that was on California, and we all wanted a longer version of both of those songs, or at least the instrumental part. And then we get that again, like, on this album. So I'm done. I'm done with 30-second Blink-182 songs. Does When We Were Young remind anybody else of Blink's sound on Neighborhoods? Or is it just me? Do you remember the first song released from this album? The first song that was released after Tom finally came back to the band. There was all this hype, all this excitement. And Blink released Edging as their first song back. This song stinks. I hated that it was the first song released for this big comeback off this album, because I guess, like, it sounds, if you take the lyrics out, like, it sounds like a Blink song, and I get the joke and the humor of everything, but the song stinks. Like, is this anybody's favorite Blink-182 song? I cannot believe that this was the first song released. My hot take is that Bad News is the best song on this entire album. This is the song they should have released as the first single instead of Edging. Now, as far as the rest of the main album, nothing really stands out. The songs all kind of blend together, so I don't really have anything to say about them. I am going to include the deluxe version of One More Time Part 2, just kind of all together. And if you've never listened to the, 8 extra songs that we got, you need to. At least you have to listen to one, and that's You've Never Left. You Never Left is the best song on this deluxe edition out of the new songs that we got. It 100% should have been on the main album, and this is a song that, again, would have been a better choice than Edging to be the first song released, because it just sounds like nostalgic Blink-182. Honestly, all the other songs on the deluxe edition are bland, they're boring. I understand why they weren't put on the main album. Everything besides You've Never Left, obviously. No Fun is just the last song by the All-American Rejects. And yeah, with deluxe editions, I know I spoke about it in my review of the 8 songs, the deluxe edition, that deluxe editions are always weird for me, because we know that the band recorded these songs for, during the sessions for the main album, One More Time. And we also know that the band thought these songs weren't good enough to put on the main album. So it's always cool, if it's your favorite band, to get new songs, but we know that the band didn't think they were good enough in the first place. So sometimes you find gems, with You Never Left. I really do think that's a great Blink-182 song, and it should have been on the main album. And I know when we were talking about it in my last video I did about Blink, that I think it was this song, that You Never Left, there were rumors that some of these songs on the deluxe edition were leftovers from the Skiba era. So I guess I can kind of hear that on some of the songs, but that would be interesting if someone ever is interviewing Blink-182, if we can get someone kind of answer to that. Are these songs left over from the Matt Skiba era? Are there versions where Matt Skiba is singing? That would be pretty cool to get. Overall, I had a fun time going back and listening to One More Time. I think sometimes people take Blink for granted. I mean, Blink-182, one of the biggest bands in the world, the biggest pop punk band in the world, right? The only other one would be Green Day. My Chemical Romance, we don't consider them pop punk, right? So it's either Green Day or Blink. And let's just say it is Blink-182. We shouldn't take for granted that they're so late into their careers that we're, A, still getting Blink-182 music, and 2, we're getting pop punk Blink-182. I hope this isn't the last album that we get from the band. I hope these aren't the last songs that we get from the band. As far as the future, I don't know if it's just me. I know I've talked about this in a few different videos. Like, I would love to see Matt Skiba come back and do like at least one song with Tom and Mark all on vocals. I think that would be super cool. You know, that new Alkaline Trio album is amazing. It's awesome. It might be the best album of the year. So getting Matt Skiba to do one more song with Blink, I think would be really cool to see. So overall, I had a lot of fun going back and listening to One More Time. One More Time. I swear I didn't write that down. Listening to it one more time 1 year later. I think it's a good album. It's not the worst Blink-182 album. It's not the best Blink-182 album. Probably too many songs. Even if we take out like the deluxe version of the album, it's probably a little bit, maybe like 4 songs too many on this album. But the good songs are great and the bad songs are bad. But if you haven't listened to this album in a long time or in a year, I definitely recommend going back and listening to it, because again, we shouldn't be taking you know, that we're getting brand new Blink-182 pop punk music for granted. So 1 year later, are you still listening to One More Time? What are your favorite songs? Or are you not even listening to this album at all? Did you completely forget about it? Let me know in the comments. Please like the video. It really helps me out, really helps the channel out. Please subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for watching.